Good people, good people, good people. Welcome to another edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Dr. Wonderful, Doctor of Writing, Professor of English, and avid Commanders fan, joined here today by my co-host, Kevin Bayne. We air every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern on YouTube and replaying at 10 a.m. on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible. How you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm hoping everyone in Commanders Rap World is doing well considering this week.
Absolutely.
Are you ready to recap our draft class of our first top three picks?
I sure am.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun. So, okay, everyone, the NFL draft ended yesterday, Saturday, as you all know. So this entire show, we're going to get you caught up on some of our draft picks and what we think of them. And our first segment, we're going to review the Commanders' top three draft picks. We've got offensive tackle from Oregon State, Josh Connerly Jr. We've got Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos, and then we have Virginia Tech wide receiver Jalen Lane. So, Kevin, tell me first of all, give me what do you think about these guys? What do you think they're going to do? And what are some of the grades that you have for each pick?
I like the way it's been going so far. There was a couple positions where I thought maybe we would have went a different position, but we didn't. But then after looking at it, it kind of makes sense why we took those positions. And yeah, with the first three picks, I'm really on board with them, and I like all of them.
So tell me let's break them down like piece by piece since we're only going to go over the first three kind of in depth. So we got a little bit more time on this episode. Josh Connerly Jr., one of the top 30 picks, or we called non-confirmed top 30 picks that we actually went over a couple weeks ago with
Yep.
our guest co-host who wasn't sure that we might actually take him. But Josh Connerly Jr., what do you think about him?
I like him. He's a big boy at 6'5", 315 pounds. Um, and I don't follow college football like I used to. I just don't watch as many live games. I still do watch a lot of players on film, and I try to do a fair amount of research, check out their highlights and things of that nature. I did that for Connerly over the last couple of days, and the kid really looks to be a stud. It's really easy to see why Peters and Quinn went with him with our first pick. The biggest con, and I read he sometimes can struggle against power rushers. I think our guest host had touched on that a little bit. He can struggle a little bit against power rushers who can overpower him and force him off balance. I don't think that's going to be too big of a concern moving forward, as I know he's going to be in the weight room. He's going to be getting stronger. He's going to be getting more in shape. And yeah, it makes sense to have two solid bookends and Laramie Tunsil and then now Connerly Jr. Protecting your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, the whole point seems to be you've got to protect Jaden,
Yep.
And give him as many opportunities to get the ball, in his hand, which leads us to our second pick, Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos. I'm happy with this pick because fans know I'm now in Mississippi, so every now and again I'll catch an Ole Miss game, though I'm Jackson State loyal. So I was really thrilled with the Trey Amos pick. He was really supposed to be in the first round.
Yep.
I never had us going cornerback because I didn't think someone like Trey Amos would be around. After Trey Amos, I wasn't in love with any of the cornerbacks that
Right.
could have been left on the board. So, what are your thoughts of Ole Miss cornerback, second round pick, Trey Amos?
Yeah, I really like this kid. He looks like everything you want in a cornerback. The pick makes sense when you look at what Peters is trying to do. I think this kid has the potential to cover and lock up guys. He was definitely one of the premier cornerbacks in the SEC. He's proven that against some of college's top opposing wide receivers. There were some games, and I even looked on film where opposing quarterbacks. One was Carson Beck. didn't even throw his way because of how good he is. And of course, that's huge. And as you mentioned, my understanding is that they thought he'd be gone in the first round, mid to maybe late first round. And if anyone got him in the second, it was an absolute steal. So the fact he was there at 61, I kind of look at that as like an early Christmas gift.
Yeah, he might be the steal of the draft. And I
Yeah.
know we were saying that last year with Johnny Newton because of where his grades wound up being, and that still may wind up to be true.
Yeah.
But I do believe that is probably the true with Trey Amos. They got him almost 30 picks after where he was kind of projected to go.
Yeah.
And so that's astonishing. And considering what AP said about, hey, he was one of the people who was there that we were thinking that we wouldn't trade down, but they clearly valued Connolly Jr. slightly higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems to me they went BPA the entire time. Like no one's going to tell me this was not a BPA draft.
Right. Right.
Right, because there were people at positions of need that we all thought that they might take a look at.
Without a doubt.
Right. And so
Yeah.
this is kind of, but I think that's what you do. Stay true to your board and take the best player. We've said that in a couple of our episodes. Take the best player and figure it out. As long as it's not a quarterback, right? Take the best
Right.
player,
Right. Yeah.
right, and figure it out. And speaking of taking the best player, this is how we get now to our fourth round pick, Virginia Tech wide receiver, fairly local young man, Jalen Lane. What do you think, Kevin? How do you like the pick? How do you like the fit?
Yeah, I like it. He's a speedy wide receiver. He's known to be able to get separation from defenders. He can be explosive. He's a playmaker. Um, he might be a little limited on how much he's playing the first season, just because we do have you got obviously you got Terry, and then we've got Debo, and you've got Noah Brown, and you've got Luke, etc. But as I said in the past, anytime you can play more than one position, that's huge. And he's known to be a dangerous kick and punt returner. So I think this very well could be our starting returner. He definitely has the speed to do so. He's pretty quick. And yeah, just another solid weapon for Cliff and JD. And I hope it all pans out.
Yeah, when I saw returner, I thought this is great
Yep.
because we
Yep.
lost Alameda Zacchaeus, and he was in the top 5 of punt returners last year. And he obviously he contributed as well, big time as a wide receiver for us. So if he can come in and just be a replacement strictly there, only at punt returns, he would show tremendous value while he's developing his craft and his skills. I will say this: he's built like some type of ball, like some type of wrecking ball. You're talking 5'10", 196.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And if you in the NFL, everyone gains weight, so gaining 10 to 15 pounds isn't unreasonable. I don't know if he's Debo light or not, but this guy is going to be 5'10", 210 pounds. But by the time it's all said and done, so he could be something very ferocious as a returner, but also possibly as some type of Debo Samuel replacement later on down the line. Obviously, those are far projections. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I think it's very possible, especially after he gets some experience under his belt. Learns the system more, and yeah, and listen, I think we will see him. I think it's very possible we can see him in some plays this next upcoming season. And yeah, hopefully he just makes the best of those opportunities.
All right. What I think is great about what I believe the Commanders' approach is with everyone they draft, and what I feel like I've seen over 2 years, regardless of I like to pick, I love to pick, whatever, is that everyone is picked with an intention to develop them to play on this team.
Right.
And remember how back in the day, like a few years ago, you would think sixth and seventh, and maybe even fifth round picks were practice squad guys, and not even guys that you thought would make the roster. It's like, well, if I lose them, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't think this staff and this team is now approaching it like that. And so I think that might be and I like the approach. It changes my thinking. I've always thought, well, 7th round picks, they rarely ever make it, just take a shot or whatever, but their approach is methodical from every single round, which I think certainly benefited them in this draft where, we only took 5 people.
Right. Right.
Right. So that's gonna roll us into our next segment here, Kevin, where we're gonna talk about draft steals, surprises, and stunners. So for you, who's your steal? Who's your surprise? Who are you like, what? So give us all of them.
I'm gonna say the steal. I'm gonna go with Trey Amos. I think it's an immediate starter. As I mentioned before, he was projected to go in that first round, and to get him towards the end of the second, I think is huge. Now we've got him, Lattimore, and Sandstrill, and I think that makes for a pretty strong secondary. And yeah, I really like that pick a lot. I think he's going to be an asset right from the jump. And then I'd say for not so much of a stunner, but a little bit might be Jalen Lane. Um, Nothing against him. I don't know a ton about him. Um, you know, just the fact that we already have some other positions. I thought maybe with that pick, they could have went running back. Maybe they could have went edge. So I'll leave it at that.
Right, right. And who do you think is a surprise?
Um, I would say the surprise. Um, I'll say Jalen Lane. I'll say Jalen Lane.
So saying stunner and surprise, Jalen
Yeah,
Lane.
I'll put him in both categories. Yep.
Yeah. I think for me the steal, yes, is Trey Amos.
Yeah.
I just think that's just glaringly true. I think the surprise is Josh Connerly Jr. only because I just didn't think he was going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a surprise that they took an O lineman or even an offensive tackle. I just did not believe that Josh Connerly Jr. was actually going to be there. Tackles, O linemen, they tend to go in those 20s.
Yep. Yep.
And I thought we miss out on him. So I'm gonna say that that's my surprise. And as far as stunners, I'm not gonna go player, I'm gonna go moves. I'm surprised we didn't trade.
Yeah.
Especially in that first round or in that second round. And I say surprise not in a bad way. I just thought Adam Peters values picks. He's given some picks away. He's going to recoup some picks. He did get a couple of calls,
Yeah.
and so, but I like that. It's fine about what you value, but when the guy you want is there, you take the
Yep.
guy you want. It's the
Absolutely.
same. It's kind of how I feel about last year's approach to the draft. When everyone's like, "Oh, you can trade down and collect all these picks and build around Sam Howell and da 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 da," and Adam Peters said he values building through the draft. Remember all of that? That it's the same thing, and it was
Yep.
like, but the guy he wants is at number 2, so he's just going to take the guy he wants at number 2.
Right. Right. Right.
And it doesn't matter if maybe we could have got Bo Nix or maybe we could have got Michael Penix. Everyone would have been talking about how we didn't get Jaden Daniels.
Right. Right. And you got to think too. It's always, yeah, you can get calls for picks, but depending on what team it is and what they're willing to give up, it's like, hey, we could have this guy at this selection, but if we're going to trade back, we're going to acquire a pick, but we're going to miss out on this guy right here, or there's a good chance we can miss out. So it all comes down to exactly what was put on the table. And just because you can acquire, more picks by trading down doesn't necessarily always mean that that's the right thing to do. Right. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely in terms of what you're saying. I will say last little tidbit before we go to our close here. I'm very happy as a whole with the way the entire NFC East drafted. I think it was a good draft by all teams.
Yeah.
And I say that as someone who grew up a fan of the NFC East and grew up a fan of believing that we are the best conference in the entire NFL. And grew up believing that whoever came out of the NFC East as the champion was the eventual champion in terms of Super Bowls. Look at our history in the 80s, right? Just in terms of the NFC East. So I know how that sounds, but I'm really happy that everyone had a solid draft because I want us to beat up on all those teams when they are great.
Yep.
I'm going to have fun kicking all of their butts because we're still going to win this division. That's what I'm going to say.
100.
We're still going to win the division, so just go ahead and watch us.
Right.
Right? Watch us.
Yep.
On next week's episode of Commanders Wrap, we are going to get through the last of the Commanders draft picks, the final draft picks after Jalen Lane. And we're also going to get too caught up on some of the press conferences, and we'll give you some insider analyses. And Kevin and I are going to give you our expectations for rookie minicamp and what we hope to see from the new men in burgundy and gold. Until next week, I'm Dr. Wonderful, Doctor of Writing, Professor of English, and avid Commanders fan, here again with my co-host Kevin Bayne. This has been your weekly edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news in 15 minutes.